Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark TV. You guys know who I am. I'm Dr. Angela Butch-Chester. You know what I like to do on my show. I want to enlighten you. I want to inspire you. I want to empower you to become your best self. Now, scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today we want you fired up about our guest. My guest today is author Salina, Chown, and we are talking about her book, Big Lies. So go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Hello, Salina. Thank you so much for joining us here on Daily Spark TV.
How are you, Dr. Angela?
I am well. Thank you so much for being on. Now, I cannot wait to pick your brain about your book. But as is tradition, we always give our guests an opportunity to introduce themselves to perhaps those few people out there that may be unfamiliar with you or your work. So the first question for you is, tell us a little bit about yourself. What makes you, you?
Well, I'm a musician. Well, I should say I was a musician, music teacher, and now I'm just write, basically.
Now, being an author, is that something that you've always wanted to do, or did you find that life presented the opportunity and you said yes?
It's something I've always thought about, something I've always been very good at. And when I became ill, it seemed a good opportunity to do that because I could no longer work.
Now, the title of your book, Big Lies. I think that most people will simply find that intriguing because it's like, oh, wow, big lies. What could she be talking about? How did you come about the title? Did you find that it came to you first and you were able to write around the title? Did the title develop out of your writings? Again, how did you come about your title?
The title came out of the content of the book, basically, and what it's about. Yeah.
Now, when you were in the process of writing, did you find that you needed to have a certain environment in order to hear yourself think, if you will? I know that many authors will say that they prefer to go off to a quiet space, or they need early mornings or late evenings simply because the world is still quiet. Did you have a particular environment that you needed?
Yes, it has to be quiet, and I have to be in the frame of mind, basically, to get in the zone, I guess you'd say.
I can definitely understand that. We all want to be able to hear ourselves think, especially when you're doing writing. Now, when it came time to determine how you would put your book out to the world, every author has to decide if they're going to self-publish or if they're going to use the professionals in some way, shape, or form, a publishing house, or to utilize their services for editing or creating the cover, so on and so forth. How did you go about making the determination of how you would present your book to the world?
Well, I thought self-publishing was a way to have more control. So that's the way I went, basically, mainly for that reason. Yeah.
Absolutely. I can understand. I can understand that. And I get that answer from a lot of the authors that I talk with. And they say, you know, I want to be able to keep my story authentic and true to what I'm sharing, or I don't want for someone to change the illustrations because these mean something special to me, so on and so forth. So I can definitely understand that. Now, when it came time to go and share your book with the world, for so many authors, this past 2 years or 18 months or so have, of course, been quite a doozy because we're dealing with a pandemic, a global pandemic. With that being said, have you found that you have still been able to connect with those who have purchased a copy of your book in one form or another? Or have you found that it's kind of been a damper on your connection with your readers?
In a way, yes, it has. It's just the whole pandemic itself. You feel cut off, don't you, from everybody, really?
So with every author, many times they present their book in a way that the reader can best utilize it. When you were formatting your book, did you find that you presented it in a way that creates a best read moment for the reader? Many will choose to present it in a way where you simply read it from cover to cover, meaning page after page. Others will do it in chapters or sections where you should really complete that section or chapter before moving on to the next. And yet others may even decide to do it more like a devotional, where you read 3-4 pages perhaps, put it down, digest it before moving on to the next. Did you present your book in such a way, or is it open to the reader to read it the way that they feel best?
I tried to make it open to people who find medical things hard to understand, so that it was easy. So I made it in chapter form. Some of the information repeats so that they can just go to a particular question or a chapter and get the entire answer in that one chapter, rather than having to read the whole book from go to woe. Yeah. So it was, I thought a lot about it, actually. I thought that was the best way to go. I wanted to appeal to everybody, not just the intelligent.
I believe I understand what you mean, especially with the chapters or the sections, that if you're dealing with a particular issue or you want that piece of information, you can still get that piece of information and not have to go through the entirety of the book searching for the answer, but you're given it within that section. I'm very mindful of you. I can definitely understand why you chose to do that. Now, that kind of leads us to the next question, and thank you for giving us a little bit of a teaser there, and that is, what is the book about? Now, I always give this disclaimer on radio, and that is, if you want to know how the book ends, you have to buy a copy. So with that being said, I don't want you, of course, to tell all of the bits and pieces, but can you give us an overview of what Big Lies is all about?
Well, the title Big Lies, it's really about how easy it is for big government and big pharma to get away with. The bigger the lies, the easier it is to get away with, and the more consequences there are. So yeah, it's just something that I find very hard to deal with personally. And the book is about a particular bioweapon that I came across that was had been tested on the public. It was made at the end of the Second World War and then tested on the public around the 70s. And the I've lost the question. Yeah, it's about them making aids and a lot of Neuro Systemic Diseases from the toxin that they made. The toxin was called Mycoplasma, and they made it so that there was to be no natural immunity and no cure. And the anger I felt when I found this out, because I have 3 of these neurosystemic diseases, was just making me even sicker than I was. So it's the only way I could get rid of that anger was to write about it. And I must point out that this isn't a conspiracy book about conspiracy theories or anything like that. It's from reputable research, from government documents, the NIH reports, Virus Cancer Program, Congress reports, things like that. So yeah, I just wanted to make that point clear.
Speaking of that research, and thank you again for such a great segue. When we talk about things that are on such a grand scale, authors and everyone have to be very careful and use due diligence to make sure that they're printing things that are factual, and that they can prove their research. When you were doing your research, how many hours or how many days did you find that it took for you to be able to put all of that information together to be able to present it in your book?
Years. It was years, a long time. And I was very sick while I was doing it. And I really did the research 20 years ago, and kept doing the research all through that time. But I put the book away for many years because I was just too ill to work on it. And I thought now is the time to do it. You know, it's with the pandemic on, and it's relevant now, I think, more than anything.
Now, someone may be saying, why didn't you release this book when AIDS was such a hot topic? The hot topic now is COVID, or the hot topic before has been vaccination, or just dealing with the various viruses that we have during any particular time. It was anthrax during one period. So someone may be saying again, why didn't you present this to us back then when so many people were struggling with trying to figure out what to do? Do you think that it was just a timing issue? Was it you needed to get more research? Why do you think now is more appropriate than perhaps a few years ago?
Well, AIDS was sort of long out of the picture by the time I found this information out, really. It wasn't till I was diagnosed with the last Neuro Systemic Disease, which was Fibromyalgia. And doctors I knew nothing about it, basically, very, very little. It was useless. So I was trying to find a cure for myself or a way of dealing with the symptoms. So I looked for anything I could with the word fibromyalgia in it, and I came across this stuff. And I just didn't want to put it out straight away. I wanted to get it all right because it's medical stuff, and I wanted to know what I was talking about. So it took a long time.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you're able to reassure the readers of the book that you did use that time and that care to put that in there. And I think that most people find that, again, to be quite reassuring to know that you're including research and you're presenting those papers and all that you said. And that's really helpful. Many folks want to know by the numbers what it means and not by emotion. So thank you for including that. Well, Salina, it is time for us to go to break. But before we do, can you remind everyone, please, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And how do we stay in contact with you?
The book is called Big Lies, and we can get a copy at Amazon and any bookstore that sells books. And you can contact me at salinachown@hotmail.com.
Alrighty, viewers, now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this.
Hi, do you have something to share? Be a guest. Want to sponsor an episode? Visit drangela.chester.com. Thanks again for watching Daily Spark TV.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark TV. We are back. So, Salina, my next question for you is, who is the ideal reader? You have taken so much time to make sure that you present your information, and it's not, again, based off of just emotion, but you have facts and stats in there so that people can follow you along on this journey, but they can also see the numbers for themselves. So would you say that this is for someone who is ill, for someone who's a caretaker, or simply for someone who just wants to know more about this subject?
Really, I tried to write it for professionals. I tried to write it for people who are ill and people who are just fascinated by the subject. And I found it very fascinating, just purely because of the way they made the toxin, really. And I tried to include everybody, but I really think that long-term drug users would find it very interesting because of the symptoms. I believe it's the reason we have so many long-term drug users, because the symptoms are very much like, say, heroin withdrawal or a lot of drug withdrawal in its first stages. And it's a disease that it switches on and off. So I found that long-term drug users, they use and then they stop for a few months, and then they'll use again for a few months and stop again. And that's how the mycoplasma works. It switches on and then switches off, switches on and switches off. And really the drug user doesn't know why they're feeling like this or why they seem to be going through withdrawals when they're not actually withdrawing from a drug.
Interesting. Yeah, I can definitely see how that is something that needs to be looked further into. I find that with so many people when they're dealing with a medical issue, because many people are not interested in the medical field. You don't do research until you're ill. You don't really know anything about anything until something affects you. And you are so right. I think that with this information that you're giving, this might be an eye-opening moment for so many people to help them understand what's going on in their lives. I know as a breast cancer survivor, when I found out, all I wanted to consume was information on breast cancer. I wanted to be an informed patient. So I definitely understand what you mean there. Now, there may be someone out there that is saying, Dr. Angela, you have people that talk about medical issues or illness all the time. So this isn't anything new. I tend to think that everyone's book is as unique as they are because it's their story and the research that they have done. So for someone who says, what makes your book so special? What makes your book unique? How do you answer that person?
Well, I try to write the book from a perspective of a patient that has to deal with the medical profession, the experiences I've had with that, and the experiences of having 3 neurosystemic diseases that are incurable. And I try to come with the point of view of the professional as well, with the medical side of it, and to try and explain everything as well as I could, just even for the lay person and someone who's sick,
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, I think just your mindfulness of how you chose to tackle the project, how to take it all on and explain it and present it to the reader is so helpful. Well, Salina, it is time for us to go to break. But before we do, can you remind everyone, please, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And how do we stay in contact with you?
The book is called Big Lies, and we can get a copy at Amazon and any bookstore that sells books. And you can contact me at salinachown@hotmail.com.
Alrighty, viewers, now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this.
Hi, do you have something to share? Be a guest. Want to sponsor an episode? Visit drangela.chester.com. Thanks again for watching Daily Spark TV.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark TV. We are back. Now, for many authors, they have to decide what they are going to include in their book. Flip side of the coin, perhaps they should exclude some things from the book, be it that it would lengthen the number of pages because you would have to go into so much of an explanation, or perhaps a subject needs a book of its own to really give it the proper attention that it needs. But it's something that many authors have to decide: include, exclude. How was that process for you? How did you determine what you would include versus what you would exclude?
I tried to put in really what was most important. And so I didn't get bogged down in the minutiae of everything. And I think that as a reader, you don't want that. It can become boring, time consuming, and heavy. So I tried to make it point fact, really. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there, and I think that for many books that are written, it's as though the goal was a number of pages. Not picking on any particular author, but perhaps their goal was, I want to write a 300-page book. And like you say, they kind of just drone on and on about a point where it was like, oh my goodness, there's 20 pages for this one sentence. We should move on now. So you're right. We do need to think about the reader. As much as we may want to pour everything in, sometimes it's best to break that up. I could not agree with you more there. Now, when it comes to future endeavors, many of the authors that I have spoken with, they say, Dr. Angela, God gave me one book to write. This is it. And this is what my gift, my legacy is going to be about. Others have said, I've been bitten by the author's bug. Dr. Angela, I can't stop writing. So my question to you is, where do you think you fall? I know that this is a new book that you're presenting to the world, but do you think that there are some more books in you to be written?
Oh, that's a good question. Definitely. I have, while I was writing this one, I started working on one or two others that I sort of threw away, and well, not threw away, it's there in the computer, but it's there for me to get back to. Even a children's book about my cats that I find fascinating, their behavior. But I'd like to do a true crime as well. So it's in the future, yeah.
I like it. And so many of the authors that I've spoken with, much like musicians, the trend tends to be you have several works that are in the works. It's book number 1, book number 3, book number 10, and there's just bits and pieces of each one of them. And when it's time, they will present themselves fully, perhaps to be given to the public. But I love that creative mind, and I love how it's always something going on in one's mind. And I could not agree with you more about the cats. Oh my goodness. Cats are, not only are they really great pets, but they are such entertainment. Just watching them exist is a pastime unto itself. I could not agree with you more. Well, Salina, I just have a few more questions for you. And that is, when it comes to your overall hope for the book, many authors will say, I hope I help just one person understand what's going on in the world. Others feel that if they're sharing, especially a personal story, that it helps in closure with them, or it's a form of therapy, and they want to let other people know they too can get through it. Do you have a particular hope or takeaway that you hope that someone who is a reader of the book will understand?
I really just want to help people understand why they're feeling the way they are, why they might have the symptoms they've got and been told it's all in their head. And for those who do know what's wrong with them, to understand how to deal with the illness, with the symptoms, what they can do, what the best medications are, what ones they really shouldn't and don't need to take that I don't think are very good. Really just to help a lot of people. That there are so many people out there that are going through the same thing, and they're just clueless, really clueless.
You know, Salina, I cannot agree with you more. Unfortunately, in the very beginning stages of my dealing with my breast cancer, I too had a doctor who was not my doctor at the time, but was a fill-in for the day, that told me I couldn't possibly have breast cancer because I was too young. I couldn't possibly have breast cancer because it didn't run in my family, without even examining me. So you are so right. There are unfortunately people that are a little dismissive of folks, be it that it's, oh, it's all in your head, like you say. And a lot of women in particular have experienced that, where they're simply dismissed, right? Because it's, oh, honey, it's all in your head, or maybe it's PMS, you'll be fine. And we feel so not believed in that moment, and that in itself can be disheartening. So thank you for including that bit and understanding that so many women have gone through that, and giving that bit of encouragement to them to keep moving forward. And I could not agree with you more. We must be an advocate for ourselves because we know our bodies best.
That's
I
right.
applaud you for all that you're doing. Thank you so much for coming on. Absolutely. Now, before I let you go, though, could you remind everyone one last time, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And of course, how can someone reach out to you?
The title of the book is Big Lies. You can buy it on Amazon or any good bookstore. And you can contact me via hotmail.com, Salina Chown.
I love it. Thank you again, Salina, for being a guest here on Daily Spark TV.
Thank you, Dr. Angela.
Absolutely. And viewers, thank you for spending time with us here as well. Of course, you could have been anywhere, but you chose to spend it with us, and I thank you for doing that. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Welcome to Daily Spark TV. Are you an author with a faith-based book? Be a guest. Serious about your product or service and want to try something new? Sponsor an episode. I see you're ready to get started. So visit drangela.chester.com. Thanks again for watching Daily Spark TV.